Someone asked a while back why, when I do the clap, I don't do it in view of the camera because what's the point of getting audio sync? But my camera actually records audio as well as my audio recorder. So what I do is I don't actually look at my clapping. I just sync up the waveforms from the DJI audio to mine. What are you doing, you dumb? Yeah. Anyway. So today I wanted to discuss something that's going to get me a bunch of downvotes. It's going to be very unpopular because I imagine it's going to be unpopular. I could tell from Eli's comments on his video, and my opinion is actually quite similar to Eli's opinion. So this is regarding a controversy about Microsoft including something in their 365 software that allows employers to get an idea of what their employees are doing. So you can see metrics, get an idea of what they're doing, and how this is absolutely awful and terrible and dystopian, and someone even called it psychological abuse. And I think that I'm not for having a surveillance state. I'm not for Google and all these companies being able to see everything that I do. However, that is separate from managing staff. And one of the things that people don't see, the thing is, I'll read a lot of these posts on Reddit where I see people talking about how the remote work is a great thing, and they wish their companies had done remote work sooner, and some companies purposely just don't do remote work even when it's possible just because they want to see people working, and they talk about how archaic and stupid it is. And to some extent I agree with them, but I also think the employer perspective is not given as often, so I'd like to give that employer perspective here, which again will probably get me some shit. But so first thing I want to do is discuss, before I even get into that, how simple it is to have someone who doesn't actually do their job. Like, it's actually very easy to have an employee that doesn't actually do their job, or that, to really, how do I put this? So there was one person I recall hiring to do customer service. He actually did a great job in the job interview, everything. So I put him in front of my machine, and I showed him all our Freshdesk tickets. Freshdesk is the customer service platform that we use to congregate emails from all three of my websites. I have a board repair forum, an online store, and then my repair website for repair customers, and my live chat. It all goes to one centralized place, as well as the old email address that was on my old business cards. Now, he was not responding to the tickets. There was I remember over the course of an hour, he wrote one draft email, and it was a sentence and a half. And I didn't understand what he was doing, so what I did is I wanted to go over and look and see what he was doing. Now, with some other employees, the reason they were not responding is because they did not have, let's say they did not know the answers to the questions. So the answer there was, okay, I as a business owner need to create a better knowledge base that lists the issues in more intricate detail. So more specifically says, when they have this model and this problem, this is a canned response that you may have to modify a little, but that's going to get you 90% of the way there. And this is the reasoning behind the answer that we give the customer. So I would do that, and that fixed the problem. Then I had someone else who wasn't doing it, and I realized, okay, you're dealing with 5 or 7 phone calls at a time at any given time. You don't actually have the time in the day. It's physically impossible for you to do this. You can't. I had another person where I noticed they were just really bad at multitasking. So they could not switch back to the task they were working on. So I tried to work with them on multitasking. I eventually did fail at that, but at least I got an idea of the problem. So what I did is I just walked up and I just looked at what they were doing. I said, hi, how's it going? Talked a little bit. And I tried to walk through the ticket that they were looking at and just to kind of get an idea of how they were looking at responding to it. And then I had another one that I'm never going to forget, who would look at the ticket for about an hour each time. He would just stare at the ticket and not type. And then I asked him, what's going through your mind? What are you thinking? What are you doing? And I could see that for the full hour, he would have the knowledge base open, and he would have the customer thing open. And it was crazy because he would look like he was working, but for the entire hour, he wasn't doing shit. Like, he would move the mouse around, and he would go to type a word, and then he would look back to the knowledge base, and then we'd go back to the ticket, and he would put his hand to his chin and all that. And it really genuinely almost looked like work. But after a full hour, he would do nothing. And I tried for several days to fix this, and I eventually just had to let him go, which is really sad because of how well he did in the initial job interview. And I tried. Now, there was another person that I had who used to do amazing work, and then at some point started to, the quality started to go down, the enthusiasm started to go down, as did the the quality assurance and everything, even though he was actually getting paid more than he was when he was doing better work earlier, because usually there's schedules for raises here if you live up to a certain expectation. And one of the things that I was able to do is I would notice that when he would get off the phone, he would every now and then he'd get a phone call and he would be cursing, and there would be someone screaming, even though it wasn't on speakerphone, it's on normal phone, you could still hear it because the person on the other end was so loud. They'd be screaming in his ear. And then one time I looked over his shoulder and I saw happened to be his significant other. So, marital issue. So I said, okay, how about I give you this time off? Here's some money. Go on a vacation. Go do something. Maybe you'll be less stressed out because they went through a stressful situation. And unfortunately, a while later, that still did not resolve the problem with the marital situation, and it wound up being a case where the work continued to go downhill. The morale of the other individuals was going downhill, and eventually, when it came time to choose, because something came up in the business where someone had to go, it was him. Now, this is one of those things that he would never tell me if I asked him what was going on. I had to be in the room to see his mood change from being somewhat happy to getting off the phone with his significant other and wanting to break the table, to be able to tell that this is what was going on. And I don't really know how you would do this remotely. I don't know how you would tell that remotely if the person's not willing to tell you, but it's just one of those things where if you have some sort of level of camaraderie with your people, you can kind of get an idea of what is going on and try to address it. And again, you're not always going to be able to fix it, but at least knowing what the problem is 50% of the way. There was let's see, what other cases do I have? I remember I hired someone a few years back, and he would actually, I remember the phone, his job as part of it was answer the phone. And I would be in my office, and he was not answering the phone. I'd hear the phone keep ringing. And at some point, it actually became a meme at the business. Every time the phone was ringing or it got to the fourth ring with no pickup, someone would scream, "Alex!" He hasn't worked here in 2 years, and every time the phone has gone a certain amount of time without being answered, people still scream "Alex" in his honor. Because what we noticed when I walked up to him and just wanted to see what was going on with the phone is he would look at the phone. He would physically look at the phone, but he wouldn't pick it up. I tried to fix that. I was not able to fix that, and that was that. Then with someone else, what I noticed was they were dealing with walk-in customers at a pace that was almost impossible to let them deal with the phone. So I tried to teach him how to juggle a little bit, and he wound up getting better at juggling. So he was able to figure out where the proper break point is in a conversation. You can't put someone on hold immediately, but sometimes you can answer one of their questions in a full enough way that they will be less aggravated if you then put them on hold. And you say, so for that's usually 200 to fix because this chip goes bad. It's a common issue. It usually takes 3 days to fix. I have a couple of other customers. I'll get back to you. I'm so sorry. Let me just put you on hold. A lot of the time, they'll just hang up because they're like, you answered all my questions. Thank you so much. And they realize that you have other people, so they're not going to continue bothering you. That's the courteous thing to do. Sometimes they won't, and they'll ask a bunch more questions, but they'll be much better off than they are if you just immediately put them on hold. But I worked with him in a little bit, and he got much better at it. Right now, he's way better at it than I am. He's a better customer service person than I ever could be. So, he kicked my ass, and that's always what you want, your employees to beat you at your game. Last thing you want to be as an employer is like the god of the company or the person that can fix all the problems nobody else can fix. That job sucks. You don't want to be God at your company. Being God sucks. Don't get a God or an ego comp. You want to be the dumbest person at your business, ideally. Anyway, there was another time where this was going on, and I realized it doesn't matter how you juggle. You need someone else to be doing this. And the people are not really open to telling you exactly what you need, but when you can see it in person and you can see what's going on, you can see the amount of people coming in and all that, you can see the amount of phone calls, you can kind of gauge it and go, okay, what you need is, it doesn't matter what I show you how to do, there's no juggling that's going to work here. There needs to be 2 or 3 more of you here in order to do this job. So I could kind of see why phone calls weren't getting answered. And there was someone else that was actually afraid of answering the phone because they were incredibly shy. And they did not like speaking to people. And that was something that I was able to see because I was actually there. I could see the look on their face as they started a call, ended a call. I could see at the end of it, even when it was a normal call. So these are all little things that are really difficult to tell remotely. And this is part of the reason that employers are sometimes, how about this? apprehensive about going into remote work because a lot of these little things that allow us to start fixing problems, it's really difficult to do when you don't have the ability to see what's going on. So for instance, like I hired Cam recently in the UK. He is the fastest at responding to fresh desk tickets of anybody I've ever hired. He's probably faster than me at it. He's fucking amazing. He's going to go on to make some repair shop owner in the UK very, very happy because he was a kick-ass employee. One thing that would happen every now and then is the phone would get to 5 rings, 6 rings, 7 rings, and no one would pick up. So the Alex tradition then became the Cam tradition of us yelling, Cam, phone, Cam, phone, Cam, phone, Cam, phone. Now, I don't know why he wasn't picking up the phone because he would tell me I am picking up the phone. But if you were picking up the phone, it wouldn't get to 8 or 10 or 16 fucking rings because you would have picked up the phone. And I don't, so I actually one time, I got his IP from the PBX because he connected to the PBX at the store. I pinged him. That's right, Cam. I pinged you and I trace routed you. There ain't no 8-second latency to the UK. So now I don't know why he wasn't answering the phone. Perhaps it was because there was that case of this this person that was, ripping him up and down for having a British accent, some little, cocksucker that was saying, oh yeah, there's these fucking bitches, man, I have to fix their computers. Remember that video with like the tough guy he's like, he's gonna pay to fix this woman's computer because he's such a simp, but he's pretending to be a tough guy after cursing out Cam. Fuck that asshole. Should have published his goddamn phone number and his address because it's actually attached, but that's probably illegal. But it would have been funny, but it's illegal. But anyway, where was I with this? This is I really don't know why he didn't pick up the phone. It's one of those things where I'll never know. Like, is it an issue of latency? Is it an issue of even if I ping you and I have, let's say, 250 millisecond ping time to your phone from my PBX, that it's still a technical issue? I don't know. Is it an issue where you just don't want to pick up because you don't know how to answer the questions? Are you are you playing Dota and then switching over to the phone? Is the software not working properly? I have no idea. And to this day, I never will because I can't do what I do with other employees, which is when something strange is going on, I walk over to them and I say, what's going on with that? So one of the things I do with all the board repair people here on a regular basis is I'll just walk up to their desk, I'll look at their board, and I'll go, what's wrong with that? And they'll tell me what's wrong with it. And I like to get an idea as to what they're working on. It's not because, now some people think that's because I want to make sure everybody's working all the time. It's not really from this boss point of view of I need ultimate control over you. Rather, I don't want you to fall into the pitfalls I fall into. So anybody who watches my live streams with any level of regularity probably realizes that I often get stuck on a board for 2 or 3 or 4 hours because I don't want to give up on it. You know that meme of the person that keeps doing chest compressions on a guy long after he's dead? It's like, he's gone. No, he's gone! And he's like, no, he's not. And it's very similar with motherboards. If it is a sunken cost fallacy. I put 30 or 40 or 50 minutes into this. I want to know what's wrong with it. I'm not going to accept this. Or especially if you got it to start turning on, but a quarter fan spins, and then it finally turns on, but has no image. And then you got it to have an image, but it randomly crashes. It's like, ah! You want to figure it out. Now, if someone says up front, it's a no, this is a no backlight board, I'll have the basic expectation if I just look over his shoulder and I see very minimal corrosion, you should be done with this inside of 20 to 30 minutes, and not including reassembly. Maybe if you're new, an hour. If they say missing PM sleep S4L, and you're still working on it an hour later, and there is corrosion, then sure, fine, keep going. But if you're working on a PM Sleep S4L board and there's no corrosion, and there are no short circuits, and there are no blown-looking components, and there's nothing in the history that really gives you an idea as to why it's doing that, then someone needs to come over at the hour mark and rip you from that board and take it from you and not allow you to fix it, the same way that you don't allow a doctor to keep doing chest compressions on someone's heart 40 minutes after they're declared dead. You need to kind of rip them away from that for their own good. Because, and people need to do this to me too. I will spend too much time on something that's gone because I want to make it work again. It's hard to give up on something. So I go around on a regular basis and I'll see. And this is helpful. Sometimes people will, we also have another system where there's a timer in the ticket. And I like to have all the techs use this timer log so we know how much time they put into each ticket. Now, some may think that's because I just want to fire people who are slow. And don't get me wrong. If you're spending 4 hours on a no backlight that's basic, you're probably your job is going in the direction of the wood chipper. But there's also the use case of, let's say that 3 or 4 people spend 2 or 3 hours on a single board, And then what I'll do is I'll look at the time log, and then I'll look at all those 3 boards, and the first thing I'll ask is, what was wrong with all those 3 boards? Well, so if all 3 of those boards wound up having the same thing, let's say shorted T2 RAM, right? What I'll do is I'll say, okay, when you have a 1990 or an A1989 computer, and it's taking this many milliamps in the charger, and these are your symptoms, I want you to make these 3 measurements. And if you make these 3 measurements, you give up, because that means you're wasting your time. It's dead. Shorted T2 RAM, GTFO. Until we come up with a solution for it, until someone comes up with a solution for it, that's a goddamn waste of time. So don't spend time on it. Now, that same metric of how much time are you spending on a repair could also be used to immediately fire the person that is the slowest at the job. If you're a good manager, what you do is you ask questions. You try to figure it out. You go, okay, is he slow because he sucks? Is he slow because he is taking on the jobs that everybody else avoids because they know that they suck? Maybe this is the guy that's actually making our business look good because he's fixing the boards that other businesses call no-fix, which causes the customer to tell everybody, this business fixed something that 3 other stores couldn't, only send your stuff to them, they're amazing. Is he a good tech, but he just spends too much time on certain issues because nobody is there to pull him away from them? So we have now as a system where if a board has these specific issues, and you're going to make these measurements, and if these measurements hold true, you're not going to waste time on it at all, because you're not going to chase it for an hour and a half only to find out it's not fixable. Once you find out what the traits are of a board that has this issue that you don't have a repair for, that's it. You're done. What are you doing? Uber, go. That's a bunch of 6s in the license plate. Corresponds with the driving. Hey. So that same data can be used to improve the morale of your staff, improve the way you manage them, improve the way you deal with customers, or it could be used to turn you into a bean counter that encourages people to do underhanded, shady shit to game the metrics. Like, for instance, you could have a race to the bottom where everybody is purposely trying to come up with ways to pick the easy jobs. Or even worse, where they're so afraid of looking like they spent too much time on a board that they purposely call fixes no fixes just because they don't want to risk looking bad. Any of these metrics can go both ways. Me looking at the amount of time you spend on a ticket, all of this, management is not just about metrics by itself. You need to take the metrics and you need to use those metrics and then use them to create a bigger picture. But if you have no metrics and you can't physically see the person or examine them, then it really does limit your ability to tell what's going on or what's going wrong. So in this article that Eli was going over, his take on it appeared to be, I'm glad I don't have employees anymore, because we're at a point where if your employee is working from home in their pajamas and they're still getting full pay, you're considered a psychological abuser if you wish to have metrics to be able to analyze and see what they're doing. Screw that. And I kind of agree. I was reading the article and I saw someone saying, this feature allows you to see individual performance data. That's problematic. Problematic is one of those words that I can't stand. I can't tell you exactly what it is. It's just every time I hear the word problematic used, it's used against something that makes me roll my eyes in a terrible way. And I realize that's not scientific or philosophical in any way. I'm just riding a bike in the rain and ranting, but every time someone uses the word problematic, it's so lame. It just winds up being something that's so lame. And here, being able to see the metrics of the people that you're paying $120,000 or $180,000 a year at a tech company, that is considered problematic. And I don't see that. Being able, like if I were to walk around the office and then look over someone's shoulder for a sec and see, oh, what's up? What's going on? And I see what you're doing, move along my merry way. That's not problematic. That would not be problematic. That would not be psychologically damaging. But doing it via technology, having a computer to do it, because I can't physically do it in person because we no longer have in-person work, that's psychologically damaging. That's something that would then be considered problematic. And that's where that's what kind of aggravates me, is that people don't really seem to see this from the employer's point of view. If you have no metrics whatsoever, and someone is not doing as well, and you have no data to be able to give you any idea of what's going on, then it actually makes it easier to fire them. Like, you need to be able to have some idea of what people are doing. You need to be able to have some concept of what's going on. So, if someone is not picking up the phone, is it because they're shy? Is it because they're sick? Is it because they just don't pick up phones because they're just a terrible worker? Is it because you need to hire more people to do the work because they're so busy doing something else they can't pick up phones? You need the ability. Like, this is something that I can't really judge well without being there to see what's going on. Now, granted, my industry is different than most industries that are looking to use the productivity monitoring features of Microsoft Office 365. I'll give it that. But this is a different industry, so I'm going to have different metrics and different ways of doing it. But what I'm really trying to get across is why it is managers may not be as excited to move to an environment where everybody is work from home. Because when problems occur in the workplace, I can walk over, I can get a lay of the land, and then I can get a general idea of what is causing that problem if someone is not upfront with me about that problem. But remotely, it's much more difficult because you can't see. So if you're not responding to stuff, do I need to send you to typing classes because you type slow? I don't know. Is your computer working slow? I don't know. And the worst thing as a boss when it comes to why someone is not doing something is to have I don't know as an answer. Because if I ask someone, why is this person doing this, not performing, and they can't tell me anything, and someone says, I don't know, then the response to that is almost always, okay, it's been great, time to move on to greener pastures, different company. Because you need the ability to know what's going on. Because sometimes the excuses you get are actually really good ones. They're good ones, and then you could build on that to build a better knowledge base. So let's say, why aren't you answering these questions? Well, I don't really have answers. Well, I have a knowledge base with answers right here. Yeah, but they're not really as in-depth as I'd like. Okay, cool. So we're going to go through these together for the next 3 days. I'm going to sit next to you. Every time you say, I don't understand how to answer this question, I'm going to write it out. I'm going to write out how I would answer it and why I would answer it that way, so that this way, the knowledge base is better, so that you'll be able to do this yourself. And you're going to have questions as to how I should answer this question, or you're going to tell me what information you need that I haven't provided. This way, I make it easier for you. And this way, you're better able to do the job. That can work. And sometimes you're going to get garbage excuses. Like one that I had recently was there was someone who had been here for a while, kind of past the probationary period. And there was a board that had come back that they had an issue with. And, it's no big deal. Okay, this is one of the boards you fixed in the beginning. You missed something that was very obvious, but, I've actually changed my training procedures and my manuals a little bit just to make this stuff a little bit more concrete for new people. But there was a chip that was somewhat, had minor corrosion by it. And one of the people here said, okay, just replace this. And then we will see what you did. He replaces it, but he puts it on the wrong way. Now he looks at me and he says, well, you only gave me the board with the fan on it. You didn't give me the whole housing. So without the whole housing, I couldn't test it to see if it worked. I said, no. You have a power supply on your desk with a MagSafe on it. You can test to see if it's turning on. Even if you can't see the screen, you can see if the board is turning on after you replace that. So if you had given that to the person to reassemble and give to the customer, they would have reassembled the machine for a customer that doesn't turn on because you put the chip on the wrong way. So you put the chip on the wrong way, not the end of the world. I've done that on stream. Sometimes I've even put power through the board after doing it. Don't tell anybody. That'll be our little secret. You, the viewer, and me on the bridge right now. You're the only people who'll ever know that I'm not perfect. But what I do is I test it, and then I find out so that I can fix it before I give it to the customer. So the idea that you can't tell that because you didn't have the whole housing, no, you could, because you could plug it in. It's like there's a power supply in the desk. Tells you how many milliamps it's using. Honestly, this is something that that shouldn't be going wrong, a month and a half, almost 2 months in anyway. But frankly, a big part of the issues with work from home is that there's a lot of people that just can't adjust to a new culture. So like one thing that I've had an issue with is if you're working from home, you're probably, you're not able to speak back and forth. You can't just walk over to someone and talk with them. So you speak on, let's say, a chat platform. Now, with chat platforms, if someone walks over to you at work and asks you a question, you probably answer it. But if someone chats you a message in a program that's on your phone or on your computer, most people treat messages on their phone like this is just something I can deal with later. Or when I'm not busy or when I feel like it, I'll respond to this message, even if it is from someone at work. And I've had this happen at work, and I know the people mean well. I know they're not. I know that these are good employees. They're good people. They care about their work, and it shows in the work that they do and in the 110% effort that they put in for this company. I know they care, but I'll have something that needs immediate response or quick response, and I won't hear any response. Or I'll hear a response, but then when I push and the conversation heads in a way that's a little bit more awkward or more difficult or more confrontational to handle, like I need this thing to be done, or what do you think I should do in this situation? It won't get responded to. It'll only get responded to once I come to the store and then I ask about it. It's just a shift. It's like people are not used to it. So if you're not going to have any physical proximity to the people that you're working with, then when you send a message, it's not the same as when you sent the message before. Because if I send someone a message on my phone, or I use a Slack or a program like that, and I'm physically in the building, what I'm sending with that message, I'm telling them, I have the ability to get up and walk 20 feet over to you and ask you a question, but this is so unimportant that I'm not even going to get up out of my chair. So they'll answer it. It's just they're not going to answer it immediately because they know, culturally speaking, if I have the ability to walk over 20 feet to you and ask you a question and I'm sending it to you over the messaging platform, this is probably something that is so unimportant, it's not even worth your time to get up. But when you're doing a work from home thing or you're not coming to the office, then I need these things to be answered immediately because I'm coming to you the same way that I would have come to you before. I just can't come to you, I can't walk over to you because, you're not, either I'm working from home or you're working from home. So it really changes things. And you could tell that in many aspects of life in the world, it takes time for people to culturally adapt to these things. So one example I give, the Democratic Party tends to be more about mask wearing than the Republican Party. I am not a Democrat. However, I tend to, agree that the science says, if you're in a group of people, like wear a fucking mask. It's not going to kill you. It's not the end of the fucking world. I think that you should ask nicely rather than put in a mandate to get people to actually want to do it. Put some patriotism into it. I kind of imagine if Trump had said in the beginning, listen, there's a terrible thing that's coming in from China, and this is going to screw over the entire world, but we're going to come together and we're going to beat this. We're not going to get messed over the way the entire world is going to be. All I need you guys to do is wear this mask. If you wear it, it will show patriotism to your fellow countrymen, and it will avoid a lot of misery. Don't listen to people that tell you I'm overreacting. The far left, them radicals will tell you not to wear a mask, but I'm saying that you should if you're a true patriot. We'd have people wearing masks all over the country rather than this anti-mask shit. But anyway, so you have Chuck Schumer. Again, just culturally in our country right now, on average, if you find people who are anti-mask, they tend to be more right than left. Chuck Schumer, he is on the left. He wears he puts his mask on. He gets on Senate Minority Leader, one of the most powerful men in the country. He gets on live television in front of hundreds of millions of people, has the mask on below his nose. Below his nose. It's useless. It's fucking useless. Like, why do you even have this shit on if you have below your nose? Now, if you're a normal person and you fuck up and you have the mask below your nose, you're a normal person. You're not setting an example for the entire country. You're not the most powerful, one of the most powerful people in the country that's trying to set an example for the entire country. You're not telling other people what to do. Chuck Schumer is one of those people that's, he's telling other people what to do. He's saying, this is what I think we should do. It sucks that the president can't get this under control. Blah, blah, blah. He can't wear a mask above his fucking nose to save his life. Like, it's not, it's not that you're dumb. It's not that he's not a moron. Okay, a lot of people are going to disagree. He's not so stupid that he can't figure out how to take it and put it above his fucking nose. It's just one of these things where in his head, it's like, I've never had to wear this before. I've never had to think about this before. It's just not in my brain. And it takes time for people to become accustomed to this. And I don't get why he does it, because it's such an easy way for people to, rag on him. And it's an easy point for people to rag on him for. And frankly, they should. You're supposed to be setting an example for the entire country, and you're setting an example of being a fucking idiot. But same thing with this, with messaging. Like just basic messaging. When you get a message, if we're doing a work from home thing or I'm not here, I need you to respond to this the same way you would respond to it if I tapped you on the shoulder in person and asked you this question. You would stop what you're doing, or at the very least try to multitask. These are the base. It's hard to convert to a work from home environment. And when you convert to a work from home environment, you're going to run into a lot of these issues. Like just remote management is something that takes, it's a different skill set. It requires employees that are accustomed to a different skill set. If you have people that are used to working in an in-office environment and you immediately try to convert them to a working from home environment, or a remote work environment, you're going to notice some people take it very well, some people take it very poorly, some people are good, but it's just not the same when it comes to certain aspects. So now, what is my point there? Why am I going on about work from home culture and all that? Well, a lot of people are pushing for work from home because of COVID, which I completely agree with. However, at the same time, we can't then say that an employer that wants to have some idea of what the people he's paying 6 figures are doing is now psychologically abusing them because he's doing that. If you can go through the red, I can too. Actually, no, I shouldn't hold myself to the standard of an Uber. I'm better than that. If I had seen it was an Uber, I wouldn't have done that. I don't want to hold myself to the standard of a TLC license plate. But it can't be, I want to be able to do remote work, and I don't want people to be able to see any of what I'm doing. Like, I get it, it feels weird. Okay, so that they could see what's on your screen when you're in the app. Now, to be clear, if they can see what you're doing on personal devices all the time, that's fucked up. That's bad. If they can see what you're doing outside of work or have access to your machine when you hit sign out in the app, fuck that. That is awful, that is wrong, that is bad. But that's not what I see people criticizing. I don't see criticism of that. I don't see people bringing that up, that's what the issue is in the context of this article. I don't see them saying, even after I sign out of this application, Microsoft is still sending information to my employer as to what I'm doing on my computer. Because if that was the case, by all means, I'd be with you. Pitchforks blazing. But that doesn't seem to be the case. Again, when I yell Cam phone, Cam has moved on to greener pastures, not because he's bad, because he's actually, I think, boasting. I don't know if he managed to get himself a better job or something as a result, or raise his current job or whatever as a result of me raving about him all the time, but he's moving on to greener pastures, and I'm proud of him. I hope his current employer, at the very least, doubles his salary. If you're Cam's current employer, by the way, you don't pay him enough. I know what you pay him. I'm not going to announce it, but it's dog shit. Double it. He'll bring in the money. Anyway, but I will never know why he doesn't answer the phone. Because, or at least in a timely fashion, or why I have to yell Cam phone to get him to pick it up on less than 16 rings right away from me. The light was green. I will run you down. But I will never know because I can't see it. I can't see if there's a look in his eye. Like, I don't want to answer it because people are going to be mean to me. I won't know if it's his software is fucking up. I won't know if it's an internet thing. I won't know if he was, playing Dota or something, and when he hits Alt-Tab to switch over to Zoiper, it freezes. Because again, I'm not saying Cam would do that, but I wouldn't put it past some of the people that I've let go to be doing shit like that. Now, I think that if you are managing in this kind of remote way, you need to build up a level of trust with your staff so that when you implement these things, it's not awful. Like this one person that works here, I will not assume that he likes me. You should never assume that your employees like you. I think you should start with the assumption that your employees don't like you, and if they tell you they like you, that they're lying because you're in a position of power over them and they want to keep their job. But when we implemented this feature of putting clocks on the tickets and seeing how much time people put in, that was a system that at first people were kind of, one person was weirded out by it, but then he said at the end of it, well, yeah, I forgot that you're a human being. And he laughed, and he meant it, I think, in a good way. Like, I forgot that you're not going to just use this to, whip people and say, you go faster. But it is useful for that. If 3 people all spend an hour and a half on a no-fix board, I'd really like to see if each of those 3 boards has the same issues. And if they do, I'd like to figure out a way to tell what it is earlier so that that never happens again. But I get what Eli is saying, where that we live in this world now where seeing metrics as to what an employee is doing when you're paying them on the job is psychological abuse. Like, that's insanity. I'll be honest, if one of my employees said, like, you're psychologically abusing me by seeing what I'm typing in the Fresh Desk window, it's like out the door with you. Seriously. Now, again, I don't want to put a camera in the employee's room or anything like that. Like, that's going too crazy. Or even see the entire workbench. But if your entire job is answer phone, respond to tickets, you bet your ass I'm going to want to see some metrics to see how you do it. And I'm not going to judge you like a bean counter. I'm not going to look at this without looking at the big picture. If we're looking at how much time you spend on boards, I'm not going to look at that without taking into account the difficulty level of each board. I will look at the tickets, and if one person's taking longer to do them, I will 100% take into account all of your boards are missing PM Sleep S4L with rancid liquid damage, and everybody else is getting SMC Reset L chips or, CB3300s to flick off. I'll take that into account. I'm not just the metrics are not going to be the only thing that decides whether or not I think you're a good employee, but they are a piece of that puzzle, and that's a piece that's going to be needed more and more if we're going to have a system of work from home. Because if we're going to have a system of work from home where you don't really have the ability to tell who's doing their job and who's not, and you can't figure out how to make it work, or how to make it be profitable, then you're just not going to, that system is just going to go away. Or the company's just going to go away. Or even worse, you just wind up letting go of everybody. Or just getting rid of entire departments. I don't see where that helps anybody. I think that the pushback on this, or like going above and beyond to call Microsoft evil for it, is a bit much. Now, again, Windows 10 spying on you when you pay $200 for the operating system. As a personal user, if you use Windows 10 for personal reasons, and you spent $100 or $200 for that operating system, and it is still spying on you, that's bullshit. Let's stick to calling them out on that. But a tool that allows employers to have metrics of some sort, to be able to see what is going on, I don't think that's evil. It can be used in a bad way. For sure, that can be used in a bad way by a bad employer. But I think that this is an overreaction. I think that, I'm open to being proven wrong in time, but at the moment, I really do see this as an overreaction. Maybe I'm biased because I am an employer. Maybe I'm biased because I do have a need to understand why people are not performing if something is not getting done, so that I can retain a company that has some semblance of quality. And I would like to have every tool at my disposal in order to do that. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And that's it for today. I will see you in the next video. Bye now.